Okay, welcome. Today we're going to take a look at how to view reports. And so I'm going to return to the Message Center. This is the landing place where you are when you log into the system. And then I'm going to just go ahead and select one of my interventions. I'm going to go ahead with literacy lessons again, and I'm going to use my student Gina here again. So I'm going to ask to show the record. And notice that I have a link down here called Charts. So I can select Charts. I can select Text Reading Level, which is pre-selected actually for me, and click Next. And here I see, and although it may be difficult to see on your video, going from here, and we have some kind of erratic progress over time. So initially these charts won't show a great deal, but over time we can see much more of a trend. So let me go back and show you a couple of more things that we can do with the charts. A second chart that you can generate for a single student is called a motion chart. So if I select a motion chart and I click Next, and I play the chart, notice that I see her movement over time. Okay, and again, she's just kind of hovering between a text level 8 and a text level 9. So in the early stages, these charts may not show a lot of specific information or very useful information. It's over time that we start to see their value. This motion chart actually is nice because it gives you a couple of ways to display data over time. One is the bubble chart, where you saw the motion of the bubble. This is time across the x-axis, okay, time across this horizontal axis. The vertical axis shows us the text reading level, and notice that it begins at an 8 and goes to a 9. And this axis changes based on the range of text reading levels that the student may have. Another way that you can use this chart is you can click here on this icon, and when you do, it turns this into a line chart for you over time. So that's a simple way to use these two charts. Let me go back, and I want to show you a couple of other ways that we might use charts. Let's go to our small group intervention. Actually, I'm sorry, other small group. That's where I have my students. And notice here that I've got a couple of students that have several weeks of data. So I'm going to pick these several students, and I'm going to ask it to show me some view reports. And so here's group reports, and one that I can show is text reading level. And here I can click Next after selecting them all. And now notice that it's actually plotted all of my students together here on the same chart. So we see we have students that are taking a very similar kind of a trajectory. They're actually overlapping. And we can see that our students are all progressing in a nice way together. And so this is a handy chart to be able to generate as we're thinking about how our groups are doing. We click the back button. We can also look at a motion chart for these same children plotted together. So if we click motion chart and then click Next, and remember I had several children all selected at once. So I'm going to select my students all together here. Notice that I have a couple of other options. I didn't talk about this a moment ago because it didn't really matter for one student. But we can have the students be shown in unique colors, or in the same color, or we can have them varied in color by their text reading level or their written vocabulary level. I'm going to use just unique colors for each child. Under size, I want the size of the bubble to represent the child's written vocabulary. So over time, we should see not only the bubbles moving up, in other words, their text reading level going up, but we should see those bubbles getting larger. And again, this is just a different way for us to visualize our data. The trails turns on a trail from behind the bubble, and so you can see the tooltip here hovering. As I hover over, it plays for me. I'm going to leave those trails off. I'll show you what they look like in a moment. So now I've toggled everything. I can hit play. And so we can see the motion of our children over time, and we see we have Dora and Carusi kind of sitting one on top of another. But we see that they're all moving up in a nice, even manner. Their text reading levels are all growing, and they're all moving in the direction that we would want. One of the reasons that we included this particular chart type was to allow you and your teacher leaders to look at differential performance of kids in groups. So another way, of course, that you could look at this is to look at the line chart of the text reading level. Okay, so we can see Carusi, Dorr, and Smith. I know that's probably difficult to read. It's hard to read on my own screen. And we can set this by text reading level, or we can just flip it to written vocabulary. And so we can plot either of these pieces on our screen. We can, of course, print these out. We can share these with parents. We can show parents how their child may be doing, or we can talk about this in our professional development groups. So we'll have the ability to use these together. There is a third chart type here. I'm not sure that it's particularly useful for you in looking at this data, but you can plot it this way, and that is turning these into a bar chart. So we can see here, we can see these growing bar charts over time for their written vocabulary for each child. We can obviously turn that into text reading level, and we can do the same thing. I'm not sure that this is as useful, but you may have a particular use for it, so if so, it is available to you. Let me click the back button here, and back again. So we can look at a single student, or we can look at multiple students, and we can view their reports. Reports are the same as charts. So if you have more questions about how to generate charts or to look at reports, be sure to let us know. And in the next session, I'll be showing you how to end an intervention.